Hi, Ryan.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good. This is similar to the process we underwent a couple of meetings ago or it might have been actually at our last meeting concerning the comprehensive permit site approval application that was filed for the sanctuary at Ashland Mills at 1060 Main Street. Again, our purpose tonight is not so much perhaps to express opposition to any particular part of the proposal, but rather to address areas that we want further information on, or if there is something in particular that we feel makes this totally inappropriate for the mass housing to prevent the process from going forward, we can certainly raise that issue. The proposal seeks 226 units. In addition to the 4 garages, they're parking for over 300 vehicles. As I said, the applicant is a Rhode Island company, Pursuant Real Estate Group. According to the documentation we were furnished, they have extensive experience with filing 40B projects and other projects, not only in New England, but throughout the United States. I would note that the name of this project is the Oasis in Ashland, and it comes on the heels of 2 other projects that they have completed. The Oasis in Plymouth, and there was an Oasis in some other town, the name of which escapes me at the moment.
I believe
That
that's
being
Middleborough.
okay, very good. They introduced a number of their consultants at the walkthrough. Interestingly enough, their engineer, Phil Cordero, was previously before us in connection with the 40B project at Zero Memorial Drive, the Arbella at Ashland. They also have another consultant who apparently is a specialist in 40B projects with many years of experience. All of that being said, I guess I would open it up for discussion about concerns that people have, issues that you would like the developer to address, or areas of opposition. Brian, do you want to start off as the senior member?
Yes. I haven't actually had a chance to peruse the plans on this one as I normally like to be able to do. But just hearing all the numbers that you just said, the primary concern is the density itself. That seems like an awful lot of units, which in turn equals an awful lot of people and cars and usage and amenities that need to be planned in with all of this. And typically, in my experience, they only calculate the square footage that they're going to use, but they don't really consider the toll on town services and town resources. So that's my basic thing. If they wanted to build something with less density there, I would be all for it, but I suppose that doesn't make it financially feasible for a builder to build something moderate. I think that's pretty much all I have to say on it.
Okay. Something I neglected to point out, but I probably should have stated, is that on the drawings that they have provided to us, the entrance and exit into the development, which is 12.84 acres, part of which is wetlands, is going to be from Waverly Street. The present design doesn't have any vehicle entrance or exit on East Union Street, which is obviously where the high school is. And that being said, Nathan, thoughts, concerns?
My first concern, and the fact that there's no, I'm not sure whether the lack of exit onto Waverly Street makes this worse or better, but that's a lot of vehicles. I mean, that's a lot of vehicles. It's, 300, 300 units. I think it's probably close to 400 bedrooms. So that's at least, you would figure at least 400 cars on site, all coming in and out right in front of the high school. I mean, that's going to back things up pretty heavily, I'd imagine. And I suppose that's a long way of saying, I assume at some point in this process, there will be a traffic study done. I would hope that the developer does the traffic study while school is in session so that we get an accurate read of kind of what kind of impact this is going to have on early morning and, end of school traffic.
Well, I'm not sure, on the date of the site visit, which was May 6th, if memory serves me correct, they had not yet had a traffic study. And just from personal experience with some of the proposals that have come before us, it would not be the first time that a traffic study was done when school wasn't in session. However, that being said, that was just a snide remark on my part.
Yeah,
again,
I think this case, I think, would be especially egregious if they didn't do it when school was in session, given the location of the development.
And again, the development plans don't show an entrance or an exit directly onto East Union Street. It's all on Waverly Street. The high school is on East Union, but obviously there's an intersection there, and it's a fairly sharp right turn if you're coming down East Union till you get to the traffic light by the public safety building and have to take I guess it's about almost like a 270-degree turn in order to go east onto Waverly. But that being said,
and that stretch of Waverly, as someone who drives it every day, is already backed up at rush at 8:30 in the morning. It's backed up all the way from the traffic light. Was that Winter Street there, all the way up to Ashland Landscape.
I mean, one of the things that this project, the location, doesn't have that the other one that we had discussed at 1060 Main Street is a proximity to some form of public transportation. Where this is located, coming on and off, has to be totally by automobile. I'm not sure there's a Metro West bus stop anywhere near there. I didn't note any while we were having the site walk around. And Peter, I think, is shaking his head no. So obviously that's a concern. Anything else, Nathan, at this point?
I think Brian raised a number of good points. I think they're generally applicable to these kinds of projects as we review them, and I'll echo everything Brian said too.
Yeah. Okay. Stu, thoughts?
Well, my thought is that when you look at these individual projects, you can come up with pluses and minuses and concerns, but my brain kind of takes into account all of the projects that are hitting Ashland at the same time. In other words, we have to remember that there's a brand new apartment complex on Chestnut Street. Peter, I don't know the official name of that, but is it like 100 Chestnut Street?
Yeah, it's 100 to 130 Chestnut Street. Correct.
Okay, so there's a gazillion new apartments going in there. And so you have like 200 cars there, and you're going to have 300 cars at this Waverly place, and then you have the consideration of the 1060 Main Street. If the project for Memorial Drive gets out of court, we have that one going on. So if you think one project is going to tie up the town, there's a potential for 3 or 4 happening at the same time. And it's got to have, we have to give this some real thought, because, you know, you could do traffic studies and there's only so many roads in Ashland, and the traffic consultants will say, well, you know, the cars will have to negotiate the traffic lights and get through. I mean, what is the traffic consultant going to do? I don't think there's ever been a traffic consultant for a 40B project that says, no, we can't do this project because the traffic is overwhelming. So we're in a bind here. We're being pinched, and we're being pinched by many, many different projects at the same time. So it's not just one individual project that we have to be concerned about. It's the totality of all of these projects that are going to put a strain on Ashland, and it's just going to choke the town. It's going to choke the services of the town, and that has to be given some very, very serious consideration.
Anything else that you want to specifically address?
No, I think all the concerns for one project are the same for all of these projects, in terms of overloading town services and safety and traffic congestion and density. They all pertain.
Okay. Ryan, how about you? Thoughts?
Yes, thanks. So I think my thoughts really build back on what Stuart was just stating, which is there needs to be a kind of overall view here. I'm not sure where we are as a town in terms of our current current numbers with respect to the minimums for affordable and mid-level rate housing. But I do know that there is a safe harbor that we could get to with respect to a 12-month period. So if these are coming on in similar time periods, there might be an ability for the town to choose which among these is the most advantageous and the least disruptive in terms of traffic, location, things like that. So I don't know if that's something that we would have readily on hand in terms of statistics. The latest I could see from the Executive Office of Housing, Ashland was only at 5.62% back in 2020. But since 2020, I think, in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of growth here. So we might be bumping up closer to the overall 10% goal. We also might get to the point where the amount that we've have targeted within any 12-month period is above a 2% increase, which would give us the ability to have a safe harbor and decline on certain projects, even if they otherwise would comply with the requirements for 40B. So that's kind of my view, is that the math needs to be done where we're at. Is
Peter, do you have that figure?
Yeah, so Ryan, I'll send you the board, the ZBA, a housing memo that I've created about this. I think subsidized house. Ashland today is about 5.62%, and that is current, and that's the rate. When this board approved Arbella at Ashland, we did go into safe harbor, and we were entertained safe harbor for 2 years. Because we had because no building permit was pulled within 12 months of the issuance of that comprehensive permit, and the board and this committee, and the case has moved to litigation, Ashland left safe harbor. And so we were removed from safe harbor because of that, because no building permit was issued in 12 months. With that said, also you have to realize that back in June of 23, the state adopted the 2020 census numbers. And so therefore, because we built all the housing that we built between 2010 and 2020 was added to that unit. I mean, added to that to create that subsidized housing fraction, right? And so that's another reason it has dropped to the level it has. All communities have dropped because of the state adopted the 2020 census numbers for annual, year-round housing stock in Massachusetts. But can we get to safe harbor? We could get to safe harbor. There's a couple things. When you add units to the subsidized housing inventory, you then create an opportunity for safe harbor. And at that point, right now, we could enter safe harbor if a project was approved and or a project submitted building permit applications, which would be our ballot at action. And I don't know if that I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
Did you say you don't foresee that, or you do? I'm sorry.
I do not foresee that anytime soon within the next 90 days, just as litigation has continued on.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, I think Ashland, I know Ashland, there's a sentiment in Ashland that we are facing a number of 40Bs, all these projects, being pinched, obviously. I just want to make a note, all communities are being pinched right now. Ashland is not alone, right? There's a few 40B open cases in a budding town of Sherborne. I talked to a couple planners recently, and there are 40Bs across the board in every town. And it's a cycle, right? Because last year, all communities, if you were up at, 10, 11%, once those 2020 census numbers were adopted, you would drop back down below that 10% mark. And so it's a 10%, it's a 10-year cycle. And right now we're right at the beginning of that cycle. And so I can say, speaking to planners, that we are not the only community that are facing multiple 40Bs.
Yep. And I don't think you'll find a community that doesn't have the problem with the in-town traffic that we're seeing right now, even before these come up.
100%. I agree. I think we all travel regionally, locally, regionally, we all drive around. I can tell you, yes, traffic affects every community. I drive the back roads to work, and I can tell you right now, I hit traffic going through Sherborne and South Natick and, to where I live, right? And so it's everywhere, right? It's where, it's a regional issue. The traffic, demand, housing, it's across the board.
Yeah, I think the only other question the only other comment I would have is it's not clear from the plans whether they were anticipating improving, possibly putting sidewalks on that side of Waverly as well. I know, having jogged that area, walked that area a lot, that's a really tough transition for pedestrians. I'm sure that might be part of a traffic study, but at least on the plans themselves, I don't see any reference to a sidewalk running adjoining the property. So.
Yeah, Ryan, and I'm not trying to rebuttal on everything you say, but I agree, that's been discussed. Sidewalks, needed of sidewalks. This plan, the construction plans that we are viewing, right? They're probably at the 50% level.
Sure.
The developers put something together to submit to Mass Housing to get what's known as an eligibility letter, which then gives them the green light to file with us, right? And so are the plans that we see in front of us the final end all be all? No, not by a long shot.
I mean, just following up on that, Peter, the materials submitted to Mass Housing by this developer don't even list the zoning waivers that they want. So how are we supposed to, I'm sure at the time they file the plans with the town, they're going to have those waivers, or else they're going to have to comply with the existing zoning law. And we all know that's not going to happen. But I mean, to me, I won't go there. I mean, I agree with everything that people have said. A couple of other things, however, and again, with infrastructure, obviously traffic is traffic, but the sewage system. I know a while ago, Ashland imposed a 2-year uh, sewer hookup moratorium, which has expired. But from a capacity standpoint, if one assumes, for purposes of discussion, that both of these projects, the 1060 Main Street and the Waverly Street, are approved, then that's going to be 476 units seeking both water and sewage. Do we have the sewage capacity to handle this? And do we have the water capacity to handle this? I mean, we're already in a water moratorium because we're in that every year because I think, have limited amount of water that we can draw based on what the state allows us to do. What do we do about this? I know when we had the town manager and the select board had their Zoom discussion about 40B projects and had the attorney sort of lay out the groundwork for what a 40B project was. He was very clear about, increasing in school use isn't a grounds to deny a project because a community is required to educate its citizens. But I mean, what about water and sewer? How do we address those issues?
Those are gonna be looked at, obviously, those are gonna be elements that have to be looked at within this process.
Okay.
you
I
know?
mean, those would
And I
be
think that's
my
gonna be
major
third
concerns.
party.
I mean, there are design issues that I have with several of these things, but I don't think that's needs to be addressed at our initial letter to the mass housing. I mean, that basically is what I have. But again, the no list of waivers, I don't quite understand why they didn't include that in the initial filing with the state. Certainly the Main Street project had a number of waivers listed in their application that they filed with the state. And I don't quite understand why this developer didn't do that. However, again, that's probably not a reason for the mass housing not to move this forward.
Mhm.
And the other thing is I'm looking at is that it looks like if one assumes that mass housing is going to approve both of these, and perhaps they will not, but if they do, the law requires that we start a hearing within 30 days of the application being received by the town. So that theoretically, we're going to have two separate 40B proposals going forward at the same time. And if that's the case, and if one gets approved before the other one, we wouldn't be able to claim safe harbor and deny the second one, would we? Because it's already underway.
You know what, I don't think I have an answer for that, John. I think that's better off served with counsel.
Okay. And again, that's looking way down the road. I don't have anything specific other than just general complaints about development and what it's going to mean for my trying to get from one side of town to the other. That's all.
Yeah, legitimate concerns though.
I'm sorry, Brian?
I said, yes, but those are legitimate concerns.
Well, they are, but well, sometimes one wonders whether they get given the sense of importance that we would like to see them given, I guess, by other parts. As Peter said, development and 40B projects are all over the place. The state, as we all know, has a dire need for housing in eastern Massachusetts, and for what better or for worse, Ashland has a fair amount of open space and not enough affordable housing, and here we are. Okay, Peter, do you have enough to put together
Yeah, I
a
do.
memo to send to Michael Herbert about
Yeah.
our concerns? And I suspect we're joining most other committees with the same, or boards with very similar concerns, but
Yeah, I can tell you, I think, everything I heard tonight is very similar to what's been said across the board, from other communities and, from other boards and committees, and other departments. And then, but yeah, we'll draft something up and we'll get it out to you guys just to proofread. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna send out, the planning board over the last couple, well, I have a running SHI, which is the subsidized housing inventory memo. And I'll send that out to everybody just so everyone can take a read through and
please do.
any questions, please feel free to reach out. Or if anybody has any questions about it, it kind of lays out the process of where the town, kind of the history of Ashland's SHI over the last couple of years, and how projects have affected that.
Okay, excellent.
Cool.
Mo-
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of meeting minutes from April 23rd, 2024. I know we got those, I believe, last Friday. Did you or Alvaro receive any proposed changes from any of our members, Peter?
I do not, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry, did either you or Alvaro receive any proposed changes from members?
Not to my knowledge, no. Alvaro
Okay.
did not say that.
Anybody, any members here that have any changes or corrections with the minutes? No,
I don't
if
have
not,
any
is there
changes.
a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
And is there a second? I'll
Second.
Seconded.
I, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
I, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
I, Nathan Band, in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
I, Ryan Sullivan, vote in favor.
Well, we are a well-oiled machine when it comes to that over Zoom. Excellent. Okay, next item on the agenda is staff updates and administrative matters. Anything in that category, Peter?
I don't think so, John. I think at this point we haven't received any applications and we're just
Okay.
kind of getting over, town meeting happened and we're kind of getting through that. And Alvaro and I are working on MBTA zoning, which is gonna be a big push coming up over the summertime. And then obviously these big 40Bs are obviously gonna take a lot of the power that we have in the town.
Yes. Okay. Well, if there is nothing else, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, and is there a second?
Seconded.
Excellent. I, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
I, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
I, Nathan Band, in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
I, Ryan Sullivan, vote in favor.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your summer. If we don't see you before it is over.
You as well.
And thank you, WACA.
All right, we'll stay in touch with everybody. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks. Good night. Bye-bye.